Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for the kind words. Servus. Thanks so much for having me here today. It's an honor meeting such a big startup community. Being a startup is so close to our heart, and continue to invest back in the startups all around the world is incredibly important for my company. But I'm here today to tell you a little bit about my company, about Zendesk, about where we are today, how we report our business, tell you a little bit about our story, where we came from, and this crazy thing that led us to suddenly become a public company with customers all over the world, and as you heard, $1 billion valuation. I then want to switch topics a little bit and then talk a little bit more about some of the things in the bigger society, some of the things, some of the macro trends that have really shaped us, have shaped our story, and in many ways have shaped our product. Because I think a lot of these stories are also relevant, are very relevant for a new generation of startups that have to think differently about how to disrupt markets and how to win customers and how to create a new form of customer relationships. But I'm very pleased to be here. Not only is this a good occasion for me to come to Oktoberfest, it's also a great occasion to come and wear some tight leather pants. Alrighty, but let me start out by giving a little bit of an introduction to Zendesk. We are today a company with a little over 1,000 employees. We have more than 60,000 paid customer accounts. So these are businesses all around the world. These are small businesses, these are large businesses that use our product for providing great customer service. We also have another something like 100,000 businesses using some of our freemium products or very, very cheap products. So in general, we have hundreds of thousands of users every single day spending their day in our product, serving a community of hundreds of millions of customers all over the world. That's a huge responsibility, it's a huge challenge, but it's also a lot of fun. As you heard, we were founded in Copenhagen, Denmark. I am Danish. And in 2007, we are today headquartered in San Francisco and listed on the New York Stock Exchange with the ticker ZEN. We have 11 offices, or we have 10 offices outside of San Francisco, and have distributed our workforce. So we now have development teams in various countries around the world. We have development teams in Australia, in Ireland, in Copenhagen, and in Singapore, and setting up operations in Manila now too. We've done that because recruiting becomes one of the most important things for the growth of a company. And being really good at recruiting becomes increasingly hard in a red-hot economy that is Silicon Valley, that is San Francisco right now. So being able to diversify your recruiting platform, being able to broaden your reach and recruit from more places becomes incredibly important as you scale and grow your company. We have been so fortunate to work with a bunch of incredibly interesting customers. We've seen the growth from the inside of customers, of companies like Groupon, like Airbnb, like Uber, like Pinterest, like Twitter, like Dropbox. All these companies that we first met as a 5-person company, and then suddenly they became this world-dominant force. We have not only helped them with some software, but we have to learn tremendously from how these companies think very differently about how to build a business, how to disrupt, and how to create a new generation of customer relationships. These are some of the metrics that we report as the business we are today. And for some of you that are running a software as a service, a SaaS business, or any kind of subscription business, this can be interesting for you. We have customers in more than 150 countries. Already from a very early stage, we set ourselves up for serving customers all over the world. And that part of it was that part of it was because of the internet. In many ways, you can do these things today because of the internet. You can have customers use your product, buy your product, service your product, everything from your website. And truly being international in how you think about your markets can really set companies up for exponential growth today. We have, because of our international roots, we have almost half of revenue outside of the US, which is, for an American software company, very unusual. Some of the things we report is what we call recurring revenue from 100+ seats accounts, because this is one of the metrics that tells us something about our progress into the enterprise space, which is very important for our investors, for example, but also very important for the future growth of the company. So thinking about what are the metrics you really think about to determine and to assess the progress of your company becomes increasingly important as you grow your company. Revenues, we're growing like weeds. It's fantastic. Last year we made $127 million in annual revenues. We are now at a run rate of close to $200 million, and we continue to grow very, very quickly. This is a lot of fun. Growth is a lot of fun. All righty. But because I now have all of your attention, and because we have something like close to 1,500 customers, I think, here in Germany. So I know a lot of you guys are already using Zendesk, but there are also some potential customers here. And because of that, I'm going to show a little video about what does Zendesk actually do.
Zendesk is software for better customer service. Customer service starts with a question. An email, tweet, phone call, chat, search in your help center. Zendesk collects all these conversations and brings them into one place, which is easy to set up and simple to use. For support agents, it highlights conversations that require attention, enables work on multiple tickets at the same time, and provides the tools and information you need to solve an issue, even if that stuff doesn't come from Zendesk. And when an issue requires input from other people in your company, Zendesk makes it easy to collaborate and work as a team. All these interactions are tracked by Zendesk, providing valuable data about your company, as well as analysis of your performance and how it compares to your peers. So whether you're managing a team of 1 or a team of 1,000, you'll have a real sense of how things are working. Nice. But tools, data, and efficiency don't mean a lot if you don't understand the actual people behind the questions and whether or not they're satisfied. And ultimately, that's what Zendesk is for, improving the relationship between your business and your customers, which is awesome. I think it's awesome, at least.
All righty, so thank you. After this little commercial break, this is Denmark, this is where I'm from, and 7-8 years ago, there were absolutely no startup community in Denmark, there were absolutely no VCs, there were absolutely no money to raise. Denmark is known for a lot of things. Nyhavn, if you've been Copenhagen, it's a great place on a summer day to sit and have a very cold beer. But it's not where you really go to raise money for your future enterprise software company. So we had to think bigger and we had to think outside of the box. And in general, I think that's one of the things that we found in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco, the ability to think bigger. We also found a community that we belonged in. We felt very much at home. And of course, we could raise money. We could raise a lot of money. This is the three of us. And this is very shortly before we pack our luggage, our families, and move to San Francisco. And as you can see with any other startup, it's a lot about drinking and smoking, and and of course we built some software too. But it was a great time when you think back about it. When we think back to those times, it's a very warm and fuzzy feeling. The early days. It was of course also a terrible time because we had absolutely no money and we had no idea about how to make money, and we had no idea about what the future will bring. Every single day, every new day was a struggle, but it's also you think about it in a very romantic way still, because that's the very birth of Zendesk you see right there. There was a bunch of stuff we knew, and because, and then there was a lot of stuff that we knew we didn't know anything about. But what we really learned, especially as we moved our company and as we learned how to think bigger and be more ambitious, we also realized that there were so many things that we had no idea about. And that is really kind of the challenge of building a company, is that if you stay within the limits of the stuff you know and the stuff you don't know, you will only build a small part of the total potential of what you can do. For us, moving to Silicon Valley, for us moving to San Francisco and building our company there and really leverage that community and leverage the talent that has built so many companies, so many great technology companies over time was crucial for us. So let me just take you back to this picture. Before we moved to San Francisco, 5 years later, boom, boom. So, 5 years, and we took the company public on the New York Stock Exchange. And that was a lot of fun. It was also a tremendous amount of work. Taking a company public is really a process, especially for your legal and your financial teams, where they have to document everything about the business. I like to compare it a bit to, moving out of your parents' basement and like moving into your own place. You need to get all your ducks in a row. You need to get all your stuff together. And you have to present yourself to a bigger world and say, I can stand on my own legs now. This is how I think about myself. This is how I think about the future. These are the things I want to do. So doing that for a company that you are still very much investing in, still growing as fast as you can, and that is basically changing every single day, is a lot of work. But of course, it's also a forcing function. It's a forcing function for saying, okay, this is actually who we are. Now we can get everybody on the same page, and we can explain ourselves to everybody, both externally and internally. So suddenly, we have a narrative for the company that everybody can relate to. The thing is, of course, as for a startup, that narrative, that can also become a constraint. You can't just, as with a startup when you're still a private company, you can't just, from one quarter to the other, completely just change what you do. Oh, let's try this new thing. We can't just pivot from one quarter to the other. We have told the outside world, we have told our investors, we have told people who put their money into our company, non-sophisticated investors, we have told them this is how we think about the world, and we have to kind of stick to that manuscript. So there is a constraint to that process. But I think that's a very natural thing. I think that we all experience that as we grow up, that your opportunities, the world open up, all the things you can do over time suddenly, we can't be rock stars anymore. Although we all wanted to be astronauts and rock stars and I don't know what when we went to school. At some point we realized now we are too old and we are too fat to become rock stars or astronauts. And that's the same thing with a company. At some point you realize that this is your destiny and you have to execute on it. But of course do it in a way so you can keep innovating and being disruptive. So a fantastic process and something that has really started a new chapter for the company, started a new chapter for Zendesk. And also has redefined my role now as a public company CEO that stands here in tight leather pants talking to you guys. All right, but let me shift gear a little bit and talk about some of the trends, some of the changes in the economies that have really shaped our story, that have shaped businesses, that have changed business model, and also have shaped our product, and I think are relevant for a lot of you guys too. 5-10 years ago, you did not see any kind of subscription-based businesses or what we call convenience-based business models. When my first software company was a small startup, and when we sold software, we sold it for we sold a license, and it cost like 50,000 euros or $50,000. It was a very transactional-oriented. You sold it to the customer, and then the customer has to figure out how to become successful with the software. Nowadays, you can subscribe to Zendesk. kind of the same software. It only costs you like $100 or $200 a month. So by making the software more accessible, we have suddenly expanded the market dramatically. Now you don't need $50,000 to get up and running with some software. You just need $100 every month. And we can all afford $100 a month for our business. That has vastly expanded our market, but it has also changed kind of the relationship between a business and its customers. Now it's not just about selling the software, it's really about maintaining that long-term relationship with the customer so that they come back every single month and pay you $100. Netflix, fantastic example. Who would have thought just 5-10 years ago that for $10 a month, you can see all the movies, all the new Hollywood hits, all the European movies, as many as you want, just by paying $10 a month. It's a completely new business model, completely changed how you think about the relationship with your customers. For business software, it's the new standard. Nobody's going to build a software product today that they're going to sell as a perpetual license. It's all subscription-based businesses. Birchbox is a good example of make up on demand. You have a similar company here in Germany, also a great Zendesk customer, Glossybox, where you basically subscribe to your makeup. And in the world of kind of consumer, we really see these new convenience-based models. Companies like, how many here have used Uber? I know Uber is not like super popular in Germany, but they are in the rest of the world. Okay, you all use them, great. You all know that convenience. Like you gave them your address, you gave them your information, you gave them your credit card information. So whenever you need a car, you just hit the button and boom, the car is there. There's no hurdle for the transaction. That's the reality of a lot of new consumer products. That's how I use dry cleaning in San Francisco. Boom, I hit a button. 30 minutes later, some guy picks up my dry cleaning and he comes back the next evening. If I want food, if I want anything else, it's just a hit of a button. And that kind of convenience-based models and the subscription-based models, it's not about the individual transaction anymore. It's about your ability to retain and think about the long-term relationship with your customers, because that's where the real value is. So we've seen this shift in business models where there's a change in kind of the there's a change in focus from kind of the transactions between you and your customer to the lifetime, the long-term relationship with your customer. And that has truly changed how businesses think about their customers and how they think about their customer relationships. For loyalty, to retain your customers, what we have found out and what a lot of research points to is that in that relationship, it's not about providing it's not about exceeding your customers' expectations. It's not about going above and beyond. It's not about wowing your customers or anything like that. What matters for loyalty is about removing friction in the process. It's about removing all the little points in the process that can make the customer think twice about, should I use this provider or another provider? That has shaped tremendously how we think about customer service, how we see it from how our customers are using it, and how we build our product. It's not about providing a fantastic experience. It's just about consistently delivering, and removing friction. You see a lot of great examples of that. This is a quote from that book that found a lot of this research, that 96% of customers that have high effort experience, that have experienced friction in their interaction with a company, they are going to be disloyal. Every friction point you put into your customers, you're going to lose customers on that. This is the Uber app. You all know it now. One of the things that Uber has been really, really good at is you cannot complete a ride and take a new ride without rating the ride you just had. They use that information to figure out what actually happened on that ride, so they can go in and remove that potential friction for future customers. That was a bad experience. Let's figure out how to turn it into a great experience right away. The effect of this is, of course, that everybody feels that if they actually provide information about a bad experience, Uber is going to reach out to them and try to make it into a great experience by giving them a voucher and taking responsibility for the issue. And that also has the effect that suddenly you turn your customers not only into happy customers, but actually customers that will recommend your product because this was a great experience. And that is so critical for businesses today. None of you guys uses Uber because you saw an advertisement for it or saw a TV ad. You use Uber because somebody told you this was a fantastic experience. You should try it too. That's the promoter economy. The amplified voice of customers today that becomes an extension of our sales and marketing efforts. We are so informed as consumers, and we have access to so many people that our impact on brands can be astonishing. I wrote a book. It's called Startup Land, describes the entire story, so you don't have to see the rest of this presentation. You can just go out and buy the book. But I share in that book a story about how we started to fiddle with our pricing, with our packaging. We growth hacked and figured out how to make more money from our customers. And we told all our customers about it. We thought we had this great plan. We changed their packaging, we changed their pricing. But what our customers heard was that, Jesus, they raised their prices, and we don't have any opt out of it. So next morning, we were on the front page of TechCrunch. Really tough for us as a company. That was the first time we ever experienced that kind of, anger from our customers. And really dealing with this, like we had thousands of tweets, thousands of messages, all this stuff going on that really hurt the company, really hurt our brand. And figuring out how to deal with this was a big learning experience for the company. We had to go out, we had to take fully, this was the actual picture. We had to go out and take full responsibility for what we did. We had to roll back the pricing, and we had to do everything we could to regain the trust with our customers. Because our customers are not only our revenue, they are also our marketing and sales machine. If we break the trust to our customers, they're not going to recommend us anymore. So that is so important for us. And we actually turned it into an exercise where we put all the worst quotes from all the tweets and all these messages that came in and put them on T-shirts. You guys are assholes. And not because we wanted to mock it, but because it's an important lesson in how little it takes to hurt the trust between you and your customers. It's as in any other relationship that you have with your friends, with your spouse. You have to earn the trust of your network every single day. You can't take it for granted. Alrighty, these are my two oldest daughters. This picture is a few years old. This is Ella and Erna. And they're sitting in the trunk of my Tesla. Yes. Tesla is an amazing car. I only have 4 minutes here, so I can't share too much about it, but it's a fantastic car. It's like a really family car. It has 7 seats, so like you can have a big family in it. I have a lot of kids, so that's convenient. And it's electric, of course, so like it has all this torque, like it still feels like a racing car, which like if you have a midlife crisis, it's excellent. And it has this 3G connection. You get new features over the air all the time. My car can do a lot of stuff now that it couldn't the day I actually bought it 3 years ago. So this is something I tell everybody. This is the most amazing car ever. I tell everybody about it. Every conference I go to, I tell everybody what an amazing car this is. And there's a lot of, I tweet about it. Ta-da! I went to Beijing, and I saw a Tesla, and I tweeted about it. It doesn't make any sense. I saw a car in Beijing. But nevertheless, I'm such a big fanboy of Tesla that I had to tweet about it. This is something that Tesla is really, really using. Like they're really promoting and amplifying all the fanboys out there to help them reach new customers and reach new channels. This is a great example of the promoter economy. A lot of Tesla's growth come from consumers like me that are big fanboys. And that is, of course, the upside of the promoter economy. The same way that your customers can turn against you, your customers really become an extension of your sales and your marketing. Ta-da! In building relationships with your customers, it's so important to give the people who faces your customer, it's so important to give them a voice that your customers can relate to. Like you're not going to go out and amplify a brand, however good it is, if you cannot relate with the people who sits inside the company. So empowering your staff to do what's best for your customers and to communicate honestly, authentically with your customers is a big, big part of being able to create a real relationship and help your customers amplify your message. This is a great example from Netflix, where they have their support agents, go into these conversations. In this example, the support agent, the chat agent, he embraces the language of Star Trek because he can see the customer is a Star Trek fan. They have this conversation in Star Trek language that went completely viral and got mentioned everywhere. This is like a good example of like the new relationship between businesses and customers requires so much in terms of being authentic, being a real company that people can relate to. This is a fantastic example we're building together with Facebook and a company called Everlane in San Francisco, where the post-sale transaction moves completely into the messenger interface. So all your delivery information, all your shipping information, everything suddenly exists in your messenger, right there where you communicate with everybody else. And if you have questions about your order, if you want to order more, you can do it directly from in the interface. This is a fantastic example of how we are all looking for this personal conversation with the brands, with the businesses where we do our business, and want that fluent conversation. I'm running out of time here, but Startup Land, we have a small booth out here. I'm going to sign a bunch of samples or a bunch of copies if you want to come out and get a book. Remember, there's no single way to build a startup. My story is just one amongst a lot of stories. You have very little chance of succeeding. So better enjoy the journey. And with that, a final piece of commercial.
Has your relationship seen any hard times?
Well, yeah. I think every business goes through hard times with their customers.
When we first met, his customer service was just awful.
I didn't think I had the time or the resources for it.
I would call.
She would call.
I would email.
I was not very good at listening in those days. I was very overwhelmed.
Oh, so I started complaining. I told my bridge club, my sister Lorraine, and my 41,000 Twitter followers.
That hurt. Very public.
So, what happened?
Well, that's when I got Zendesk for my customer service.
That made it a real relationship.
Zendesk helped me become the business I always wanted to be.
I like it when he gives me the business. Don't be old-fashioned. No, it didn't mean anything.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mikkel Svane. Mikkel.
Thank you.
It was a little sad when you pointed out that you won't become a rock star anymore. So we happen to have developed in Bavaria a secret device that actually helps you to unleash the rock star in yourself.
Ah, fantastic.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure having you
Fantastic.
here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.